Right. Now when you're fishing a popping bug like what you're doing right now, Bardo, you're going to make a cast out like that, index finger directly underneath, just like that, and you're going to pop it.
I'm going to leave it sit after I pop it too. The biggest thing that I see is people popping a popping bug like so, and it never works that way. Smallmouth, I would say, what would you say, 90% of the time, eat it when it's sitting dead still.
Yeah, it's
So
after the pop, and
I
when
cast,
it's just
I let my rings settle,
Yeah,
give it a good pop, and then I might count to 4 in my head, maybe 8,
yeah.
and then pop it again. And most times it's when it's sitting still, you've gotten their attention, they're going to slide up, and they're going to eat it.
It's a hard time is keeping somebody from pop, 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 pop,
Yes,
pop.
it is.
And you know, in a river situation, this isn't like fishing largemouth in a lake or anything like that. You've got a goofy current through here, so sometimes it's all right to throw like a big mend upstream
Yeah,
or
I might
something,
have to
isn't it?
mend this popper.
And yeah, you put slack into it, but at least you got those couple extra seconds of your popping bug sitting there and drifting. Okay, excellent. Well, let's take a peek here. I'm going to grab an intermediate fly. I want to see how you work that intermediate fly in comparison to a popping bug or something else.
Okay.
I happen to have one rigged up for you right here. Now this one has got that clear intermediate tip on it and a shorter leader. There you go. I'll take care of that.
This fly is going to stay in motion,
All right.
you know, throughout the bulk of its retrieve. But what I'm going to do with it, get it out in the water, and as soon as it hits, I want to make it move.
Okay.
You know, I
So
wanna
you're
get
not
it to
going to
move
pause
right
it
away.
like that popping bug.
I'm not going to let it sit like I do a popper, but I'm also not going to, you know, burn this thing through the water. I'm going to let it hit the water. I'm going to move it, and I'm just going to make little sharp, erratic strips.
But that stop is important.
Very much so. That allows that loop knot that we tied to maybe kick the fly to one side or the other, like an actual injured bait fish would react in the water.
Now, I know this happens to me with clients an awful lot on guide days. You know, they'll get real lethargic with that retrieve. You know, show me an example. You know, make a cast and show kind of an example of how people end up being by the end of the day.
By the end of the day, people are just pulling their fly through the water, and it doesn't have any kind of lively action to it. You want the fly to look like it's sputtering and struggling to hang on to life, and that's a little pike that will grab it when you do that.
No, you just did that. It didn't work the other way, but when it was sputtering and doing its deal, you got to grab.
Yeah, you got to grab.
You know,
so just real erratic, sharp strips.
That's so important, because I've had this scenario where typically somebody in the front of your boat who's in the front is going to have the best crack at the prime fish right away.
Sure.
And I've had that 100 times where the guy in the back of the boat is cleaning house on the guy in the front. And the only thing that's changing, they have the same flies on, but the only thing's changing is that guy is giving that kick, that stop, and he's changing stuff around.
Right, and you know what? There is no rhythm that I can tell someone, well, you need to do 3 short strips and then 2 fast ones and then a long, slow one.
Right.
You just, all the time I'm changing, you know, 1, 2, 3, stop, 1, 2. And the one thing I will tell you that always works for me is you have those fish sometimes that do what I call tractor beaming the fly, where they just start following it. Even when you're making these erratic strips, they just follow it for whatever reason.
Sure.
When I tell people, if they see that, or if I see that, I'll have them do something different. For instance, I'll say, speed it up, speed it up, speed it up, stop it. And what they'll do is go from that erratic strip to real fast strips, and then they stop that fly dead. And a lot of times that'll make that fish commit. He'll attack it then.
What's an interesting point on that with that intermediate or that bait fish fly is in the salt water world, you never, ever, ever stop the fly. In the smallmouth world, they eat it a lot of times on that stop. So it's kind of interesting.
You know, and I think that's, you know, the problem is sometimes people have done one kind of fishing and they assume all kinds of fishing to be that way.
Right, work off of that exact same premise. Excellent, excellent. And those dredging patterns, you know, if this were a fly that were a dredging fly, show me a cast with that and how you would make that move.
You know what, to be honest with you, I would do pretty much the same thing with the dredging fly.
Except for you might, when it hits the water,
I might let it settle, but I'm going to make the same
down.
kind of erratic, teasy retrieve because we want it to swim the same way, just deeper.
And you want that tip probably down to the water or closer to that water level. Because when that tip is down at that level, you can stick that fish. Excellent. Let's go down the river, see if we can catch a couple of these.
Sounds good.
See if we can take one in May on a popping bug. nice river smallmouth.
I'll take that for my first popper fish of the year.
First popper fish, your first popper fish.
They're upstream. That's a her for sure.
That's a big old smallmouth. Oh! That was a great take.
Yeah, she followed it for probably 2 feet. But they'll do that. You know, and especially like we said, it's early in the day.
Yeah. That fish didn't seem like.
Oh, there you go.
There she is.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Anchor's down. Another nice fish. See what happens. You get a superior oarsman on the on the sticks, and
I'd like to think it just took you an exceptionally long time to catch those fish.
well, yeah. But I was looking for the real big ones.
You know what's sad? This is our small fish so far today.
Yeah, this is a small fish, and in many circles, this would be a trophy.
Yep. But you know, you think of like the great smallmouth rivers that we've got, you know. We're so lucky to have this. In all of the rivers in northeast Wisconsin produce these fish. We got guys that travel from all over the world to see that.
That's a really healthy fish right there.
Nice work, Bardo. Thank you. That fish would have ate a popper.
I think so.
That fly hit the water and that fish came up and grabbed it.
Well, and that's pretty much what I use for an indicator, whether or not they're willing to come up. If your fly doesn't have time to wiggle, they're ready.
We got to pick up another fish in this cove. Oh,
Was that him?
yep.
What happened?
Bad oaring. You know what? A lot of times though, they'll come back and grab it again.
I think.
You see that a lot where, you know, a fish will grab it and then a client will pull it away and the fish is still sitting there like, where did that go? And your client's kind of sulking at that point like, oh, I missed him.
Well, and if you miss on the first trip, if you see a fish grab at your fly, to try and resist picking it up and casting again is a good thing, because sometimes that fish will hang behind it.
Oh, yeah,
and if you just keep it moving, they'll come back and eat it again.
Yeah, that fish might be still on the fly.
I mean, let's face it, fish miss.
Right. Boy, it feels nice to be in the pointy end. Wow.
Well, it seems like when I'm fishing with you, you're there, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Wait a minute. I was very unselfish this morning.
There you go.
Ooh, pike. I'm going to try them again. They're my flies, right?
They're your flies. You can lose them if you want to. He should come back. There he is. Is that a smallie?
Pike.
No, is that him?
Yeah.
This is my enemy out here.
Because they eat $5 flies?
On a daily basis. Come here.